was cast out of her father's house by her merciless stepmother. With nothing but a small bag balanced on her head and crutches tucked under her arms, she wandered into the streets with no one to turn to. Life was a constant struggle until the day she crossed paths with a wealthy CEO whose presence changed her destiny. How did he transform her pain into triumph? This is the journey of a young woman who rose from rejection and disability to become an international fashion icon. A tale of love, sacrifice, betrayal, and ultimate success. Clara had always been a radiant, cheerful girl in the bustling city of Amansa. Neighbors adored her, and teachers admired her brilliance and kindness. Her father, Mr. Kingsley, traveled often for business but always returned with gifts. Her mother, Jessica, a devoted seamstress, filled their home with warmth. Clara's life was happy until the morning she found her mother pale and weak in bed. The doctor called it a minor illness, but days turned to weeks, and her mother did not recover. Even in sickness, Jessica lovingly called Clara her sunshine. Worried and scared, Clara prayed daily for her recovery, longing for life to return to the way it once was. Kingsley put his work on hold to care for his wife, but one quiet morning, Clara woke to the sound of relatives crying. Her father hugged her tightly and whispered that her mother had gone to rest with God. He placed Jessica's cherished necklace around Clara's neck. At only 13, Clara was shattered by a void too heavy for words. Though her father stayed close, trying to make up for the emptiness, nothing could replace the love her mother had given. Eventually, Kingsley knew he had to resume his travels or risk losing everything he had built. Relatives urged him to remarry, insisting Clara needed a woman's guidance and care. Their words weighed heavily on his mind, and one night, as he watched his daughter sleeping peacefully, he realized they were right. She would need a mother figure as she grew. Months later, during a business meeting, Kingsley noticed a young woman named Melissa playing with children at a nearby playground. Her warmth and kindness drew him in. He thought she might be the perfect person to help raise Clara. They soon became friends, and eventually, Melissa was introduced to Clara. With her gentle approach, she won the girl's heart. Over time, their bond grew, and Kingsley, believing he had found the right woman, proposed. Melissa accepted, and soon they were married in a joyful ceremony. Clara beamed with happiness, thinking life would finally return to peace. At first, Melissa played the role of a loving stepmother. She treated Clara with affection, cared for her, and made her feel safe. But after the wedding excitement faded, Clara began to notice a change. Melissa's warmth disappeared whenever Kingsley traveled. She became demanding, sending Clara on endless errands, and showing little kindness. When Kingsley was home, Melissa acted sweet and generous, hiding her true nature behind a mask. Clara endured in silence, unable to tell her father. One day, after returning from the market with the wrong vegetable, she received a harsh slap across the face, the first in her life. Heartbroken, she wept all night but kept it to herself. The cycle continued for years, two different worlds. Melissa's fake kindness in her father's presence, and cruelty when he was away. One scorching afternoon, Melissa handed Clara a list and money, ordering her to fetch items from the market. Knowing the punishment for delays, Clara hurried out, her mother's memory haunting her thoughts. At the market, after finishing her shopping, she rushed to find a ride. The bus stop was overcrowded, and desperate not to return late, she chose a motorbike, though she disliked them. The journey began smoothly, but only a few kilometers from home, a speeding truck swerved into their lane. The motorbike jerked violently, and Clara was thrown to the ground. Pain shot through her body as her skin scraped against the rough road. The heavy motorcycle pinned her leg, leaving her frozen in shock until bystanders rushed to help. A neighbor driving by recognized her and immediately called Melissa. When she arrived, Melissa fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face as though she cared deeply. Clara was rushed to the hospital, where doctors quickly operated on her injured leg. Hours later, the surgeon informed Melissa that Clara would now need crutches. He could not promise she would ever walk again, only that with faith and strength, miracles were still possible. Melissa wept in front of the doctor, but inside she felt nothing. Later, when she entered Clara's ward, she looked at the bandaged leg with a cruel smile. The doctor said you may never walk again. You will need crutches, she said coldly, then turned and left. Clara's chest tightened with grief. She had always loved running, chasing friends in the schoolyard, and the thought of losing that forever broke her spirit. For the first time, she felt she had enough proof to tell her father about Melissa's cruelty, But that very night something happened that silenced her. When the hospital was quiet and the nurses had gone, Melissa returned. She leaned over Clara, her voice sharp and low. "Don't tell your father I sent you to the market. If you do, you will regret it for the rest of your life." Clara's lips trembled as she nodded, fear choking her voice. Her body ached, her leg throbbed, but the greater pain was the secret she was forced to keep. She knew her only chance of exposing Melissa had been stolen away. The next morning, Kingsley arrived. The sight of his daughter with bandaged legs made his heart sink. He rushed to her side, holding her hands tightly. "Clara, what happened? Why were you outside? Who sent you?" he asked, his eyes filled with tears. Clara's heart pounded. Melissa's warning echoed in her mind. She forced a weak smile and whispered, "I just wanted to buy some snacks, Daddy. I didn't want to disturb anyone, so I went alone." Kingsley frowned. "But you could have asked Melissa or even the gateman. You should never go alone." Before he could press further, Melissa walked in, her expression full of false concern. "I didn't know she left the house. She must have sneaked out while I was in the kitchen. Thank God she's safe." She kissed Clara's forehead and left the ward with her husband. Out in the corridor, Melissa began weaving lies into Kingsley's heart. She told him Clara was lying, that she had been sneaking out to meet boys in the neighborhood, that she had even heard whispers about a secret boyfriend. Kingsley dismissed it at first, unwilling to believe his little girl would do such a thing. But Melissa repeated it often, each time more convincing than the last, until the poison of doubt began to settle in his heart. While Clara healed from her wounds, Melissa quietly built a wall between her and her father. Then, one evening, Melissa learned she was 2 months pregnant. When she shared the news, Kingsley was overjoyed, hugging her tightly and speaking of the future. "Clara would soon have a sibling," he said with excitement. Melissa smiled, but deep inside, she felt something darker. An unwillingness to share her husband's love with Clara. The next morning, Clara was discharged. She expected her father's warmth, but at home, all his attention was fixed on Melissa. His smiles, his laughter, his care, all centered around the pregnancy. Clara felt invisible. She told herself he still loved her, but for the first time she felt like she no longer belonged. Her room became her refuge. Movement was painful, so she stayed inside, finding comfort in sketching. Page after page, she filled her books with dresses, coats, and gowns. Drawing became her escape, her joy, and her way of forgetting the loneliness. Months passed, and Melissa's pregnancy neared its end. By the 8th month, her selfish heart had grown restless. She didn't want her baby to share affection with Clara. She wanted Clara gone. When Kingsley received a call to attend a 2-week meeting abroad, Melissa saw her chance. That morning, he kissed Clara's forehead gently. "Melissa will take care of you, my love. Be good, and I'll bring something special when I return." Clara nodded, hugging him tightly, but inside she trembled, knowing what awaited her. The very next day, Melissa stormed into her room with an empty purse. "Where is my money, Clara?" she barked. Clara looked up from her drawing book in shock. "I don't know what you mean. I haven't left this room." Melissa's eyes narrowed. Her voice rose. "Don't lie to me. You took it." No matter how much Clara pleaded her innocence, Melissa refused to listen. In anger, she gathered Clara's clothes, her crutches, and even her cherished sketchbooks, and threw them outside. Standing at the doorway, she spat cruelly. "You don't belong here anymore. Get out of my house. I cannot live in the same house with a thief." "Leave now and never return," Melissa told Clara coldly. Clara couldn't fight back. Melissa was heavily pregnant, and any struggle might endanger her, so Clara pleaded instead, crawling on the cold tiles without her crutches, begging for mercy. Melissa ignored her pleas, dragged her outside, and locked the door behind her. She warned the gateman not to let Clara in again, or he'd lose his job. And just like that, Clara was left sitting at the gate of her father's house, her chest heavy, tears stinging her eyes, unsure where to go or who to turn to. She waited for hours, hoping Melissa would soften her heart, but nothing changed. As evening fell and the streets grew darker, Clara realized she couldn't spend the night at the gate. It wasn't safe. She packed her sketchbooks and a few clothes into a small bag, grateful to discover some money tucked inside. With her backpack slung over her shoulder and crutches under her arms, she walked away slowly, each step heavy but determined. At just 17, She had no idea where she was heading, only that she had to keep moving. Exhaustion soon weakened her arms and legs until she spotted a truck parked by the roadside. A large wooden table leaned against its back, leaving a narrow space where she could shelter from the night air. She climbed up with difficulty, curled into the corner, and clutched her bag close to her chest. Whispering to herself, she closed her eyes. Tomorrow will be better. By morning, loud noises startled her awake. She had overslept and discovered the truck had traveled overnight. Now she was in an unfamiliar city. Hungry and weak, she climbed down, her backpack still secure. She hadn't eaten since the previous day, and it was already close to noon. A woman selling bean cakes stood nearby. Clara pulled out her money and asked quietly, "Please, can I buy one for 10 naira?" The woman glanced at her crutches, then at the coin in her hand. "It's 20 now. Everything has gone up," she replied indifferently before turning away. Clara mumbled an apology and backed away, her face burning with shame. She wandered for hours in the hot sun, stopping at every stall and kiosk, asking if they needed help. The responses were all the same. Everyone wanted someone strong, quick, experienced. One man even laughed in her face, mocking her limp. She forced a smile, pretending not to care, but inside her heart ached. By sunset, her body screamed with pain, forcing her to lean against a lamp post to rest. Her stomach grumbled as she opened her sketchbook, turning through her designs to distract herself. Dresses, coats, gowns she had dreamed of creating. Suddenly, a gust of wind snatched the book from her hands, scattering her drawings across the street. Papers tumbled toward the traffic. Panic gripped her. Without hesitation, she hobbled into the road, ignoring horns and shouts, desperate to save her work. A black SUV screeched to a stop just in time. Inside, a well-dressed man on the phone glanced up as the driver braked sharply. He was about to complain until he saw Clara scrambling after her sketches. Curious, he stepped out to help. His shadow fell over her as he handed back a few pages. She looked up, startled, then softly whispered, "Thank you." He studied the sketches in his hand, impressed. "These are yours?" he asked. "Yes," she answered, still focused on gathering the others. He bent to help, his eyes lingering on the drawings. "You did these yourself?" "I did," she replied, smiling faintly, relieved he admired them. "You have talent," he said, reaching into his pocket and offering money. Clara stepped back quickly, shaking her head. "No, please. I'm fine." "Your apology is enough." Though she desperately needed it, her pride wouldn't allow her to take it. But he insisted. "This isn't pity. It's appreciation for your art. Please." After a pause, she accepted with a grateful smile. As the SUV drove away, she wished she had thanked him properly. She tucked her sketches back into her bag and used the money to buy food at a nearby canteen. While eating, a man noticed the necklace on her neck, the same one her father had once given her late mother. He approached and offered to buy it, promising a good price. Clara hesitated, torn between memory and survival, but in the end, she sold it. To her shock, the buyer revealed it was pure gold and paid her generously. With the money, she bought second-hand clothes and began selling them by the roadside. Some days she sold well, others barely anything, but at least she had an income. While waiting for customers, she always opened her sketchbook, filling its pages with new designs. Drawing gave her peace and kept her connected to her mother. One afternoon, as she sketched by her stall, the same black SUV passed again. From inside, the man recognized her instantly. He remembered the girl who risked her life for her drawings, now surrounded by faded clothes yet still lost in her art. He thought about stopping, but instead, he watched quietly as his car moved with the traffic. That man was Adrian Cole, a fashion prodigy and billionaire at just 24, the force behind the global fashion empire Cole L'Atelier, with boutiques in Lagos, Dubai, and Paris. His creations were worn by royalty, and his name was celebrated worldwide. But those close to him knew he was obsessed with perfection. Nothing less would do. The day after seeing Clara again, Adrian sat at the head of a long conference table. Designers from across the world presented ideas for the upcoming World Fashion Show in Paris. "In 6 weeks," he said firmly, "I don't want nice. I don't want beautiful. I want something that will make Paris hold its breath." One by one, the designers shared their visions, but none impressed him. He dismissed them, demanding something extraordinary next time. Alone by the window, Adrian's thoughts returned to Clara. Her determination, her fragile figure on crutches, her sketches clutched like treasures, they haunted him. He remembered the lines of her designs, their originality, the way they lingered in his mind. By evening, he couldn't shake the feeling. She might hold the vision he was searching for, the one that could leave Paris breathless. He resolved to find her. Meanwhile, Clara's father, Mr. Kingsley, returned from his business trip abroad, excited to reunite with his family. Laden with gifts, he was eager to see Clara, but Melissa stopped him with a sorrowful expression. She claimed Clara had disrespected her, stormed out, and never returned. Kingsley was shocked, but Melissa persuaded him not to worry, insisting Clara was with friends and would return when ready. Before he could question further, Melissa went into labor, and his attention was pulled away once again. At that very moment, Clara sat under the sun sketching a jumpsuit when a familiar shadow fell across her page. Looking up, she froze. It was Adrian. "You again," she whispered, smiling faintly. "Thank you for what you gave me last time." Adrian ignored the gratitude. "I am Adrian. I don't know your name, but I came looking for you. Ever since I saw your designs, I haven't been able to forget them. I want you to work for me." Clara's grip tightened on her book. "Work for you? I don't have training. I can't even sew." Adrian crouched to meet her eyes. "I don't need someone to sew. I need ideas no one else has, and you have them." She studied his face, suspicious yet hopeful. "Why me?" Adrian smiled gently and offered his hand. "Because talent doesn't ask permission before it shows itself." After a long silence, Clara took his hand. "All right. I'll try." He asked her name, and she laughed softly. "Clara." His driver helped her into the SUV, and her life began to change in ways she had never imagined. She was brought to a beautiful apartment where she could rest, eat, and feel safe. The next day, she was taken to Adrian's company and given a creative studio of her own, equipped with everything she needed. For the first time, Clara unleashed the ideas that had always lived in her heart. She worked tirelessly, pouring herself into every sketch. Even when her hands cramped or her legs throbbed, she pressed on, imagining dresses that breathed life into fabric and gowns that could captivate the world. When the day arrived for Clara to present her collection before Adrian's senior design team and Adrian himself, the room fell silent as her sketches appeared one after another. These were people who had seen fashion at the highest level, yet they stared in disbelief. Finally, one of them broke the silence and asked, "Where did you find her?" Adrian's faint smile never left Clara as he replied, "Sometimes talent finds you." For the first time in years, Clara felt a spark of hope. When the presentation ended, the verdict was unanimous. Her collection would headline Cole Atelier's show at the World Fashion Exhibition. The announcement left her stunned, as though she might wake up any moment. Joy overflowed within her. She knew her life had changed forever. Back at home, Melissa, Clara's stepmother, was still adored by Kingsley, or at least that was the illusion she created. After giving birth to a baby boy, she had secured his affection. Kingsley showered her with anything she asked for, but the cracks soon began to show. Melissa guarded her phone as if it were treasure, slipped away to answer calls, and demanded more money than before. Kingsley silenced his doubts, convincing himself she was simply private, perhaps because she was now a mother. But one afternoon, the truth revealed itself. Melissa left her phone on the couch before heading to the bathroom, a mistake she had never made. Kingsley entered the room and, when the screen lit up with a message, he instinctively reached for it. He only meant to check for photos of their baby, but what he found shattered him. The messages were from someone saved as J. They read, "I miss you. Once the money is transferred, we'll leave this place forever. He suspects nothing. I'll make sure the boy carries your name on his birth certificate. Start looking for houses in Cape Town." Kingsley's hands shook as he scrolled. Each message pierced deeper. Pictures left no doubt, and voice notes echoed laughter he hadn't heard from her in months. His body grew heavy as he sank onto the couch, his chest pounding with betrayal. Melissa stepped out of the bathroom, drying her hair with a towel, and froze when she saw him holding her phone. Instead of fear or guilt, she smiled. "So, I guess you found out," she said. Kingsley's lips trembled as he whispered, "Melissa? The baby? Is he mine?" Her laugh filled the room. "Do you really want me to answer that?" she mocked. The air felt sucked away. His knees weakened, everything he believed collapsed. That night he didn't sleep, and by morning, he began divorce proceedings. Melissa showed no regret, no tears. In the end, the court granted her 30% of his wealth, his house, and custody of a child that was never his. The morning he left his home, Kingsley thought of his late wife, then of Clara. Entering her old room, he discovered her diary hidden beneath the cupboard. As he read, guilt tore through him. He had believed a stranger and abandoned his only child. He vowed to find her. He rented a small apartment and began searching. Walking through Clara's old neighborhood, questioning neighbors, and combing the market. Days turned into weeks, but he never gave up. One evening, the voice of a fashion TV presenter filled the room. Kingsley marked notes on paper until a name froze him in place. And now, the breathtaking collection of Clara Kingsley. His pen dropped as the screen revealed her walking down the runway in a stunning gown, smiling radiantly. Kingsley stood in shock. She was walking how? The crowd erupted in applause as her designs dazzled. Tears blurred his vision, pride mixed with regret. His daughter had achieved greatness without him. The host continued, explaining how billionaire Adrian Cole had discovered Clara, invested in her, and even funded treatment that allowed her to walk again. For 3 consecutive years, her designs had dominated the world fashion show. Kingsley immediately tried to reach her, calling the station, contacting organizers, speaking to journalists, but all efforts failed. Clara was now surrounded by managers and security. Every path ended with the same response: "You'll need to go through her manager." Still, he refused to give up. For Clara, working with Adrian had transformed her life. She had a car, a home, and a personal studio. He never treated her like just an employee. Adrian valued her ideas, listened to her stories about childhood dreams, about Melissa, her late mother, and the struggle she faced when she couldn't walk. Clara found comfort in him. To Adrian, Clara wasn't just talented, she was courageous, and that courage made him see her in a way he had never seen anyone before. As the years passed, Clara's name became global. Celebrities wore her designs, and Adrian's company thrived like never before. But to him, Clara was the greatest treasure. One evening, after reviewing collections, Adrian softly called her name. "Clara, there's something I need to tell you. It's not about work." With steady eyes he confessed, "I've met many people, but no one has moved me the way you have. I don't just admire you, Clara. I love you." Her heart raced, words failed her. Adrian smiled gently. "You don't have to answer now. I just needed you to know." Clara had always respected him. His strength, his vision, his determination. Yet as she stood there, wrapped in his words, she realized she had been falling for him all along. With a trembling smile she admitted, "I think I've been falling for you too, Adrian." Relief and joy spread across his face as he held her close, whispering, "I promise I will never hurt you." Their bond grew deeper with each passing day, obvious to everyone around them. 5 months later, Adrian hosted what seemed like a corporate celebration, but it was more than that. Clara arrived in one of her own gowns, glowing like moonlight. Adrian couldn't take his eyes off her. As the music slowed, he led her to the center of the hall, dropped to one knee, and spoke from the heart. "From the first day I saw you sketching by the roadside, I knew you were extraordinary. You've given me joy and love I never believed I deserved. Clara, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "Yes, Adrian. I will marry you." The hall erupted with applause as he slipped a ring onto her finger. But Clara's joy paused when she saw movement at the back of the room. An older man with tired eyes stepped forward. Her heart stopped. "Papa," she whispered. Adrian gently explained, "He reached out to me weeks ago. I thought it best he be here." Kingsley fell to his knees before his daughter. "My child, I failed you. I let lies blind me. I let you suffer when I should have protected you. I have searched for you every day since. I don't deserve it, but please, forgive me." Memories of her pain resurfaced, but so did the love he once showed her. Tears filled her eyes as she embraced him. "I forgive you, Papa," she sobbed. From then, her father was once again part of her life. On her wedding day, Clara walked down the aisle with Kingsley by her side, while Adrian waited with a smile full of love. The ceremony was beautiful. Hearts healed, bonds restored, and a new chapter began. As they exchanged vows, Adrian thought back to the young girl sketching by the roadside and the remarkable woman she had become. When their kiss sealed the union, it was truly happily ever after. Melissa, however, was left to face the consequences of her choices. Abandoned by her lover and with no money left, she struggled to raise her son alone. In the end, life taught her the harshest lesson. This story is a reminder that kindness can change destinies, dreams can survive hardship, forgiveness can heal wounds, and trust must never be given blindly. What lesson did this story leave with you? Share your thoughts in the comments. A new heart-stirring story is on its way, so make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell turned on. If this touched your heart, give it a like and share it with someone who needs inspiration. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey.